Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so welcome to this teaching call. And I'm so excited for what we're going to be going through today. And let's start with the breath. Let's start with tuning in to the body, to this present moment. This call is about creating ceremony and living in ceremony in our lives. And a big part of ceremony is presence. That is a huge element of this concept. So let's relax a little bit deeper. So just feeling a little shift, maybe in the way that you're sitting, maybe a little shift in the way that you're breathing, and just see if you can start to notice your energy outside of yourself. So things that you're thinking about, things that are coming up, influences, impressions. See if you can relax the connection you have to the outer world and start to internalize, start to go inside your internal world. Feeling your breath coming in and out. And no matter what is happening, seeing if you can bring in a little bit more presence. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. Slowing down the breath. Maybe a beautiful breathing mantra that really has helped me is, this is my inhale, this is my exhale. So simple, but such a beautiful practice of presence. This is my inhale, this is my exhale. This is my body, this is my breath. Keeping it simple, but establishing connection. That is the most important part of ceremony, intentionality, and celebration. Beautiful. So I'm just inviting you throughout this teaching call, if you ever want to return to this space with your breath, do that. The calls are also meant to be a meditative experience where you can lean back and also receive, close your eyes, breathe. But of course, you can also totally be involved in writing in the chat and interacting, because there's teachings here as well. So just knowing that at any point, if you close your eyes and start to just be in another space, that's totally welcome. And it helps also embody the energy. So I really recommend, oscillating between being, informative, forward leaning. What did she say? Should I write that down? Da da da. And also this leaning back of, let me just implement exactly what she's saying in this moment in my body. Let me experience this. So I'm really recommending both in these teaching calls. So as always, I have my little notes here, and let's get started. So there was a beautiful quote by Joseph Campbell, and it is, your sacred space is where you find yourself again and again. And I think it's so simple, but it's really, really beautiful. I feel really passionate about this call today because, as some of you know me a little bit more than others, my life can be sometimes quite busy. And yeah, I hear you, Cecilia. Sounds good. Just do exactly on your own time what feels good for you, what you're capable, capacity, all the things. I'm just so happy you're here. So, as some of you know, my and it's not even me. Let me talk about if you can relate to this, because it's many of us that have a busy life, right? To have kids, to have a job, to have a partner, a relationship, a home you have to take care of, right? Family, and even just the everyday upkeep of being a human, making sure that you're your fridge is full and the dinners are cooked and your hygiene is up to standard, and that you still maintain a social life and a professional life and all of these things. When this piles up, I've noticed in my own experience, the space with just myself, the sacred space, can sometimes be deprioritized because there's other people around me that maybe expect something of me, or there's relationships that need to be nurtured, because relationships are a very big part of my life, right? And I'm sure all of your lives, all of us, relationships to our partners, our friends, our clients, people, right? And this quote, your sacred space is where you find yourself again and again. This sacred space that we can create in our lives, in our homes, and wherever. You can create a ceremony in a sacred space anywhere, right? Or the sacred space within yourself that you go to and that you prioritize. And unfortunately can be one of the first things that get the back burner when life gets a little bit busy. So we're going to be talking about the aspects of ceremony, the aspects of celebration, and then how do we bring this into our everyday life? How do we weave this in a practical and embodied way? So I want to bring in, I always start these calls by talking about the definition of certain words. And ceremony is often known to be a formality, right? If you get married, there's a ceremony. If there's a new queen, there's a ceremony. If there's a rite of passage, there's a ceremony. What else did I write? Marriage, yes. Birthdays, births. There's more of this celebration and ceremony energy around these bigger things in life. Or I wouldn't even call it, like, they are big things. Like getting married, I think, is a beautiful big thing. Having a child, rite of passage, when women get their period or men grow up to be young men, boys, right? The rite of passage into manhood, womanhood. These things are to be celebrated. They are to be honored. And death, yeah, wow. Thanks for bringing that in. What a ceremony. Recently, I figured out that there is an education to become a death doula. I knew it existed before, that people supported the passage going into death, that next stage. But I didn't know that it's actually like a profession, like an education that you can take in some countries. So that's a ceremony for sure. Now, so it's a formality, right? If there's, and yeah, like I said, if there's a new queen, there's a ceremony, there's a protocol to this, right? Protocol is another word. It's how things are done. When this happens, we do this. When there is this, we do that. And, if we are just to have a ceremony around wedding, births, and coming of age, that's like 3 ceremonies in a lifetime, and death. So there's like 4 ceremonies in a lifetime, depending on how many times you get married, of course, and how many children you have. But it's not much for the normal society. Some people, they only have one ceremony their whole life. It's the wedding. And others who are maybe interested in these type of things, like we are in this community, ceremonies can be different stages of our lives. We could have gone to different events where we were initiated into different spiritual practices or different areas of our lives. We could have a ceremony if we completed a certification program, for example. That's a ceremony. There's different ceremonies that maybe you've been involved in, that you've put yourself in. So I'm inviting you to invite in more of these important moments in your life, not just the birthday once a year, or the birth of your child, or a wedding. That there is more moments to celebrate a ceremony. Now, there's also ceremonies around holidays and season changing, which I think is very beautiful. And I'm going to talk about a little bit later with the everyday things is like, I guess I'll just kind of touch base on it now. It's like, do you know when the seasons are changing? Do you know when the solstice is? I think being connected to nature is a very ceremonial, natural way that our bodies can make a marking and make an important dedication. But I'm gonna be able to tie this in a little bit more. So a protocol is a system, it's a code of procedure. When this happens, we do this. And it's up to you how much presence and care and intentionality you want to do things. I've been taught by incredible humans, and I've also just have this in my path of making things beautiful, right? I want to make things beautiful. Even the way I work, I want things to be beautiful. Often, even when I send emails to my students or I'm working with bank, like my money, paying bills, things like this, sending out invoices, I want to do it in a beautiful space. That can be a ceremony. That can be a ceremonial, intentional space. It's a procedure. Every business has procedures, right? When this happens, we do this. But the level of how you do things is going to bring that next level of sacredness, of intentionality, of devotion, of, yeah, intentionality is a big one here. Presence is a huge one, and connection is huge. I would say that I'm going to go through the aspects, but the biggest ones of ceremony is your presence, is your connection to what you're doing, and presence, connection, and intention. Why are you doing this? Because as I started, when our lives get a little bit more full, when we have family, a big circle, clients, social life, things, stuff, house, somehow everything can start to be a bit mundane. Paying bills is mundane. Washing your house is mundane, and mundane means kind of like everyday, not so special. And ceremony is very special, right? You work really a long time to create this wedding ceremony. The day is a really big deal. You are completely present, right? So how can we bring that more into the other things that we do? Because paying bills can be a ceremony. I know it sounds kind of, maybe you've never heard this before, but it's like, it can be a very, like, why are you doing it? Why are you giving the money to certain things? And why are you receiving money for certain things? Isn't that beautiful to be able to pay for your beautiful house, or to be able to pay for the phone that connects you to the world, or to be able to pay for the electricity that keeps your house warm, or to pay for the food that nourishes you? So it's really starting to bring in this presence and connection to everything that you do. And it can be intense in the beginning because it's like, well, you know, it takes a lot of energy to do this. Can't I just, buy food? And it's a progressional lifestyle shift that is really inviting more consciousness. Again, connection, presence, intentionality. It demands a bit more of you. To be intentional in this life can be quite demanding. The human urge to check out is really there, and it's given to us, right? Through TV and distractions. There's so many distractions. And I'm not saying that watching TV is necessarily, a bad thing. I'm not judging anything. The idea is just the invitation to bring more intentionality into your life and realize, why do you do what you do? Everything from how you are taking care of yourself to the smaller, more normal things like paying your electricity bill? Can we elevate our experience in this life through ceremony? So everything from, like I said, ceremony of your relationship or celebrating a milestone in your life, celebrating a season passing, to celebrating and honoring the everyday things. So when this happens, how do you do it? And what do you do? So now I'll go into the aspects of ceremony. I've kind of already touched base on the three of them, but I would say the first is to have intent. Like, why are you doing this? Are you awake and aware? When you live a more intentional life, there's a lot more presence. You know, imagine your day where you are so intentional. It's like you wake up and you take care of yourself. You don't go straight to the phone maybe, or you do, but you really enjoy it and you know where your limit is and when you have to get up. Again, there's no judgment of going straight to the phone. I'm not really rigid like this. If that is a ceremony for you to go on your phone and to check in with your messages and you really enjoy that, I'm not going to say that that's wrong, even though there are studies that probably prove that seeing your phone the first thing in the morning is not the best. But if it brings you joy and you are totally in that, I say that beats sometimes these science experiments. But, and then, yeah, I just lost my train of thought there. Yeah, talking about intent. Thinking about the days that you're really intentional and how you almost remember these days because there is so much presence. So the first one is intentionality. Why are you doing this? Why do you do what you do? The second one is environment. So creating an environment. I read many years ago, like one of the main teachings that I kind of based my starting years in this work as a teenager, young 20s, I was told that the environment is stronger than your willpower. And I thought it was interesting. And I'm still playing with it because I don't know if it's like 100% because I think that I can change my inner to affect the environment. But there is definitely some truth in what I believe to be true about the environment affecting the inner as well. And this is a dance because there's also a beautiful practice. And what I also want to invite you to think about now is like not letting the outer environment affect your internal state. This is something humans get so caught up in because we have physical things all around us. There's physical realities, and we relate to them instead of creating from a new internal spacious part of us where new things can come, creative potentiality can come from, instead of just bouncing back what is already here, what's already physical. But environment is important, and some humans are much more environmentally sensitive than others, where being in certain places is going to affect your being. And what we get to control is our homes. For example, if you do have a home right now, some people are nomadic, and that's totally great as well. But you can still create environment no matter where you are. Bringing things that you care about and owning things that you care about is also a big part of intentionality in your life and creating ceremony in your life. And when it comes to actually creating a ceremony, the environment is important, that you actually set up a little space. So some people have altars in their homes, and some people have, like for me, I don't have like a specific altar. I don't have a specific place where certain things that are sacred to me are. My whole house is decorated with sacred things. And maybe you guys can relate as well, where it's just like the house is the altar. And for me, this is very beautiful because everywhere I go, I'm reminded of my intentional life. And I've been told this by people who come to my house. They're like, everywhere I look, there's love. Every corner of my house, there's love, there's intention. So when I create a ceremony, though, I will just collect the things that feel right for me, right? Like a candle, some sage. I try to bring in the elements, earth, water, have a drink, tea, got the sage for fire, air, and bringing that into a little space wherever I am. If I go into nature and have a ceremony with myself, it just really depends on the intention. So sometimes I make a fire, sometimes I just bring a notebook and sit by a river, a waterfall, and it's just me and nature, and I'm writing something. But usually fire and the elements are a huge component of ceremony as well. Connectiveness to nature, to us. Again, the sacred space is where we find ourselves again and again and again. And it makes sense for me that we would find ourselves in nature, in the elements, in the rawness and the realness of our existence. So the environment is an important part of ceremony. A lot of ceremonies are done in beautiful environments and nature, but can be done also anywhere, to be honest. The next one is presence. And this is just like a practice of not thinking about anything else, right? This presence of being so immersed in the experience of whatever your intention is, to let go of something, to invite something in, to honor something, to declare something. You're really present in the experience. Then there's this gratitude and appreciation for it. So you're feeling this elevated, you're not just present in it, but you're also elevating the emotions. You're feeling appreciation. There's a sense of like this, yeah, elevated connectiveness, if that makes sense. I hope that made sense. There's this appreciation. I'm trying to explain it because I can feel it in my body. It's like you're there, you're present, but then you're also just like, wow. Like you want to wow yourself in a ceremony. You want to feel awe. You want to feel like this is going into my bones. Like there's this some sort of like nourishment and appreciation and like, oh, this is so good. There should be a sense of receiving in a ceremony. That's why a lot of people, they also conduct ceremonies for somebody else. There's a receiving aspect. So there's something about this appreciation of feeling this elevated wow. The next one is the invitation of transformation. So there is a quality of ceremony where there's an opening for change and contemplation, because you're marking a spot between before the ceremony and after the ceremony. So during the ceremony, there is an aspect of transformation. There's an aspect of moving and an aspect of contemplation. Who have I been? What has worked? What do I want to change? What am I letting go of? What am I ready for? How is this going to impact me? How is this going to feel? How am I landing? Where am I? How did I get here? Right? This contemplation, transformation energy ceremony can bring. Another one is this aspirational aspect. Again, it's kind of this connected to the transformation where it's like, what's possible now? Now that I say yes to this marriage, or yes to honoring myself, or yes to this next phase in my life, or yes to motherhood, or yes to this new season in nature, what's possible for me? So there's this aspiration quality as well of where can this take me? And then there's the completion energy of, again, so much gratitude for the experience, landing it in your body, and just feeling like there is some sort of energetic completion, and now you can move forward. Now, sometimes there's a big expectation in this work, and also in breath work. This is something we talk a lot about all over with my clients, whether you're training with me or a client of mine. putting a lot of expectations on your sessions, and you can also put a lot of expectations on your ceremonies. You can feel like, okay, well, after I'm done, I should be a new person. After I'm done this fire ceremony to honor my next phase in my life, I'm going to be a different person the next day. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it happens like that. You'll have a ceremony and you will not be the same the second you leave the ceremony. It can happen like that. Other times it's more of a gradual seed that needed to be planted. So it really depends how ripe and how like mature the plant of the intention is within you. If it's very new, then you've most likely planted a seed, and it's going to take a little bit of time for that to grow. If you've been growing that intention for some time and then you do a ceremony, that can be like the catalyst in the ceremony that it just flourishes. Do you see what I mean? And this is the beauty of having more and more ceremonies in your life. Ceremonies for new phases that you're going through, for self-love, for your relationship, for your friendships, for your next year of age, right? Because the more you do this, the more you're watering the energy of whatever it is that you're celebrating or honoring. But if you don't do it and you just do it once, it's most likely going to be a seed that needs time. I had a ceremony in May in 2021, and I went to the waterfall. I have a waterfall close by, and I brought my journal, and I brought like a sheepskin and I think a cacao, and that's it. I think, I don't even know if I brought a cacao, to be honest. So the intention was self-love. I said, I am done with being hard on myself. So I set off time, and I was like, I'm going to go into the forest and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to like initiate myself with the power of the earth, with the power of my words, with the power of intentionality. So I went to the waterfall and I sat next to it, and I just started writing and writing and writing and writing. And then in the end, some of you might have heard this story before, because it's quite a big ceremony that I did with myself. But it wasn't big. That's the thing. It actually wasn't big, but it was big inside. But it was very simple. It was me, a notebook, and a patch of grass by a waterfall. And then in the end, I felt really called to just write myself a letter. And it said, Dear Elisabeth, I'm so sorry for this and this and this. And a quote came from there that I teach now and that is kind of integrated into my whole being. And it said, I promise. So it was a letter that said, I'm sorry, and then a promise letter to myself. So it's like a forgiveness letter and a promise letter. That can be a very powerful ceremony for yourself. What are you forgiving? And then what are you promising moving forward? Again, this like transformational phase of like, what's been going on? Where are you moving forward? That's kind of the energy of a ceremony, right? And the quote came, it said, I promise not to be hard on myself. I promise not to be harder on myself. Wait, was it? Now it's not coming through. I promise when things are hard, not to be harder on myself. And that quote just landed in my whole entire being, and I devoted myself to that. Now, the next day I woke up, had this profound experience by the waterfall, and nothing really changed that much. But then I kept kind of following that energy. I read the letter a couple more times. I was just kind of in this transition period. And then I started to reflect 3 months later, 4 months later, 5 months later. And I realized, I said, I haven't been so hard on myself. I haven't downward spiraled in a half a year now. And then I could trace back to that ceremony and realize that that was the turning point for me. That was the mark in time that really flourished and brought this beautiful moment for my body, my soul, my spirit, my being, to really connect to something that was important for me. Would it have happened if I didn't go to the waterfall and make that letter? Probably, because in general, there's a devotion to self-love in my life, just like you guys are devoted to whatever it is that's important to you. And would it have happened if I didn't do that? Yes. Would it have happened in a much longer time frame? Probably, because I might have just kept sabotaging and kept being hard on myself until one day I'm just like, no, I'm going to make this important. I'm going to commit to this energetically. So there is, just a beautiful, flourishing, supportive, nourishing energy when it comes to ceremony. And I'm going to talk about celebration soon as well. That can be quite similar. It's the healing aspect of caring about what's important to you. I'm getting a bit warm. I have a top on. I look a little bit topless, sitting by the fire. So it's a healing aspect of caring about what's important to you. And I think it's an important question as well to feel into what is important to you. I remember my teacher asking me this in 2018 or something. He asked me, what's important to you? And he has asked everybody in the room. And people were saying love, peace, joy, happiness, beautiful things, right? What's important to you? Family, all these beautiful virtues and values. And then he said, well, what's really important to you? And went around the room again and people said love. And they really tuned into it, like, what's really important to me? Love, right? I think that's what I said. And he said, if that was so important to you, then that would be the leading energy of your life. If it was so important, like you say it is right now, then that would be the thing that infuses in every single thing in your life, if it was so important. And this is something that I brought with me in my life of what is important to me, and can I live 100% by that? Because some people say, like, forgiveness is important, but then they walk around holding grudges. Then forgiveness is not that important to you, like you say it is. Or understanding is important, but then still feeling maybe stubbornness and not open to other people's views in life. Then understanding actually is not that important to you. So it's really about finding what is actually important to you. And this is so important to define and make sure that it's leading in your life. If you do that, you're going to have a very integral, deep, and meaningful life. Now, to live 100% by what's important to you, it's romantic, it's a big word, it's a big idea, but it definitely is going to help to live more intentionally. It's going to help to live more ceremonial. If love is as important as I say it is, then in times of challenges, I'm going to be able to stay awake and aware. I'm going to be able to value connection. I'm going to be able to return to love as soon as possible. And just questioning, how are the things that are important to you? How quickly are they, cultivated and captured in your life when things are also not that easy, when you want to check out? So let me know if this is landing for you. And I'm going to go into the celebration part and then the everyday part as well. I hope this is serving. Let me know what's landing. So it's a lot about knowing what's important to you and what are you dedicated to? What are you dedicated to? It's really hot by the fire here. So let me know if this is landing. Then I'm going to talk about celebration and then everyday ceremony, ritual, and bringing it all together. So just letting things land, receiving a new way of doing things. So good. So grateful it's landing and resonating. So let me talk a bit about celebration. Some of you that have been with me for some time, whether it's in the certification program or I've talked a bit about it in Breathe Live, but celebration for me has been the medicine of sabotage. Celebration for me has been the medicine of sabotage. And I'll explain why. So, celebration is a marking in time, it's an acknowledgement. And there is kind of the nuance between ceremony and celebration, I think, is that celebration is more of a party like energy. So it doesn't have to actually be a party, but it's more of a party like energy for something that has already happened. I've heard it before, but beginning to understand it better. Love it. That's amazing. Right? This, for me, it's a lot about reminding as well. This information I'm sharing is in deep within you. I want to believe. So it's about bringing it out and being able to hear it in different ways. So I'm so grateful that it's like integrating and landing. So a ceremony is more of a process that you can step out of and into differently. And you can also step out of a celebration differently than you stepped into it. But the intention of a celebration more is this party of something that has already happened, right? So it usually comes after something. So you get married, there, that's the ceremony, that's the transformation ceremony, and then you have the celebration party afterwards, right? Your birthday could be like you have a ceremony, but then you invite your friends over, or you celebrate after. You can celebrate a ceremony, right? So that's kind of the difference of those two energies, but they do, yeah, they're very beautiful if you can have both in your life. So it's a marking of time and an acknowledgement of what happened, an acknowledgement. And I promise you, humans, adults, we need more acknowledgement in our lives. We need to create more acknowledgement and receive more acknowledgement that you are seen, heard, and met. When you're young, you get a lot of acknowledgement. You're the center of attention. Everything you do is the most amazing thing ever. You walk for the first time, you talk for the first time, you make your first art, you do your first football game, you do your first ballet recital. There's so much acknowledgement for stages in your life. And as you become older, we're paying our bills and everything's becoming so mundane. There's no ceremony, there's no transformational moments with you and sacred space. Or I mean, no, okay, now I'm being dramatic because I want to believe that you guys are already in this world, right? You are. And as adults, giving yourself acknowledgement is one of the most precious, beautiful things you can do for yourself and others. Being a part now, some of you know me for some time, I'm a big believer in ceremony and celebration. And now some of my closest friends and clients, of course, too, they celebrate and I get to be a part of their celebrations. And I get to be in this like little moment of time where, yeah, they send me a message and they want to celebrate something, or they, share something, or my friends want to take me out to dinner to celebrate their thing, or want me to join on something to celebrate and I get to be a part of their celebration, acknowledging them. I get to celebrate other people and acknowledge other people for what they've done. It's such a beautiful feeling. And then I get to also do that for myself, which is, it's a healing process, actually. And it seems like, parties are only for kids, but we need more party-like energy in our lives as adults, acknowledging what we've done and celebrating it. So when you self-sabotage, you're basically not acknowledging the good and you're not honoring yourself. You're saying what I did wasn't good enough, and it can also downward spiral into you not being good enough. So sabotaging can be what I did wasn't good enough and I'm not good enough. Celebration is what happened was worth acknowledging and I am worth acknowledging. What happened was worthy and I am worthy. It's the other spectrum. And that's why it's so healing. And again, the human urge to want to check out and not do these things. I also share and practice with my clients that celebrations should be planned ahead of time. So if you know that you're going to have your first breathwork course, for example, for those of you who train with me, you're going to have your first client, or you're going to have your first official event, or you're going to have your first paid client, and you know that that's happening on that day, on the Wednesday, what you would do is you would plan the celebration ahead of time on the Friday. Because when the thing happens, sometimes you lose the energy afterwards. When you build a celebration up until the point, there's a lot of excitement energy, and then you get to land in the planned celebration. So that's just a tip. Plan your celebrations ahead of time, because if you do it after the thing, the energy might die down and it's going to be a little bit harder to create that party-like energy because you're going to be thinking about the next thing, right? So pre-plan your celebrations. When we do this, we are creating memories in the body. And this is the same with ceremony as well, a little bit of a different energy, but similar. We're creating a memory of success. We're creating a memory of things working out. We're creating a memory where even healing the inner child within us that is getting acknowledged for something we've done. So like I said, this is a very healing process. We are acknowledging something that we've done that is working. Excitement is such healing energy for children and for adults. If you can safely feel excited, that is such a high vibration, such a healing vibration. If you can genuinely feel excited without the shame, without the guilt, without the fear, without the doubts, you're quite unstoppable, I would say. Excitement connected to like deep connection. That means I'm excited and I know that I'm worthy of this excitement. I'm excited and I'm safe. Safety and excitement, wow. And that's basically what a celebration is. It's like I am safe in this moment and I'm super excited about life. This will elevate you so much. And you're creating a memory in your mind, in your subconscious, of things working out for you. And that's why it heals sabotage, because the more you do this, the more your personality is going to be like, but I'm doing good. Like, I don't need to sabotage because what I do, it works. And if it doesn't work, then I tweak it and it's all good. You don't really have this unhonoring, unacknowledging part of you anymore. So it's really healing. There's also another human urge of not wanting to make things a big deal. People around you might start to feel like, oh, you're doing that again. You're doing that candle thing again, or you're taking so much time to cook that meal, or, can't we just make it easier? I don't know. I hope you guys don't have this around you so much, but I realize this can be a reality, that not everyone is going to understand this way of living. But I really hope deep down that you are more and more and more surrounded by people who get it, and you don't have to have anyone's recognition or invitation to throw a party or to have a ceremony with yourself. Again, what is important to you? Is connection to a sacred space or acknowledging yourself more important than what others think of you? I would really hope so. And if it is, then you need to act that. You need to actually be like that. Because if it's important to you, then I hope that it's in the forefront of your life. And I know this can take time. If you've been with someone for a long time and suddenly you're starting to, take longer showers or do things in a little bit more ceremonial way, they can start to be like, what's up with you? You've changed. But this is, over time, you're going to start influencing people around you as well. And oftentimes when we think others are judging us, it's usually because we're judging ourselves. And there is a huge conversation of not thinking that we're worthy of these things. Like, why make a big deal of it? Just do it quickly and just get finished with it. And who cares? And let's just do the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. I just accomplished that, but not a big deal. Put it under the rug. Let's keep moving forward. I could have done better. I don't want to make a big deal. I don't want to make this about me. Don't worry. We don't have to do it. We can reschedule it. Oh, if you can't come, then I just won't do it. Right? It's just like I could keep going and going because it's so normalized to just want to under put our excitement. So, we really, if other people don't feel that things that are important to you are important, don't let that dim your light. Like, we really need to embody this more and more and more. And knowing that people around you are going to start to most likely be influenced and inspired by this and want to join at some point, but it might not happen right away. So, life is ceremony. Can you elevate your living standard in a big or a small way to bring more intentionality and presence? So, this can be something like your morning or evening practice or just being. What do you really like to do in the morning? Sometimes, a couple days a week, I like to sleep in. Other days, I like to wake up super early. And this feels so good for me. This is kind of like a ceremonial or intentionality where it's like this morning I'm sleeping in, and that's just like so, it feels so luxurious. Like making a cup of coffee in a beautiful cup. I mean, this is where, we're getting quite feminine now because feminine loves beauty. For those who feel like they identify more of like a feminine energy. Where there's more, just creating more beauty in the everyday things, from the cups that you drink out of, the plates that you eat from, the things that you see. And something that can really support in this is also letting go of anything in your home that feels like it's holding energy of the past. If you see something and you feel like this coat or this, furniture or something like this is not really representing me right now, you can either decide, is this something that is actually valuable in my family and I can just put in a storage, someone else can use it, or like, obviously I'm not all about just like throwing things away. To be like, and that's also ceremonial, to actually care about things. Just because it's not for you doesn't mean if somebody else might not want it, if it's an important, valuable thing. So just really cleaning up your space. And I think from a masculine perspective as well, this is very refreshing to have order, to have structure, to just clean up and declutter. This can really support me, at least, in the environment. Another way to create ceremony for me is a lot about staying connected to nature. So the question for me is, do you know where the sun rises and sun sets, where you are? Do you know what time the sun rises, and do you know what time the sun sets? Do you know where the moon is in the cycle? Do you know where north, south, east, and west is, genuinely in your home or where you are in the world? This can really help with presence on earth. So if you can orient yourself based on, can you tell the time of day by looking at the sun? This is ceremonial in the embodiment. This is knowing nature's movements and transformations and phases. This is bringing more presence into your life. Because yeah, you can light a candle and light sage and light a fire, but if you're not deeply connected to you, to nature, you're missing the depth of what this can do for you. So, we say we love nature, but do we actually live in harmony and appreciation for nature? Does it reflect in your lifestyle, things that you buy, things that you eat, right? Spending money. Are you spending money? Like for me, it's much more ceremonial, or much more this energy to give my money to smaller businesses, to get my meat and things like this from farms, like from direct farmers. And it takes more energy. to go to the farmer's market and like put the order in and wait every 2 weeks and get it from them, and instead of just going to the local shop here and buying the factory stuff. Again, I'm not judging, but for me, it brings more of a ceremonial to how I interact in this world. It makes me appreciate what I eat more. It makes me focus more on what am I actually buying? When do I actually buy things? I used to live in a mountain outside Bergen in the west coast of Norway, and I didn't have a car, so that's a little bit on me. Life would have been much easier if I had a car, but I couldn't just run to the shop. For me to just go to the shop would have been like a 2 hour process with walking and bus and back. So I really learned from a young age to work with what I have and be intentional about what I buy in. And now as well in my life, I don't like to buy fast fashion clothes. I rather buy one piece a month that is better quality and usually much more expensive than buy these small things that are mass produced that doesn't feel good for me, right? So, but this is part of my values, my virtues, my ceremonial life. And you get to choose exactly what yours looks like. Some people don't want to drink coffee. Tea is their thing. Other people, coffee is the ceremony. Some people don't eat meat and they grow their own vegetables and that's their ceremony. Or they, right? Other people, they eat meat, but they want to make sure it's well sourced. Other people pray before they eat. Other people pray during when they make the food. It can look so different. Some people don't pray at all. I mean, I don't really pray necessarily like before I eat or anything like that, but I breathe. I'm in my body. I'm grateful. I'm trying to be aware of the process from the beginning to the end. I'm so it's like this presence and connection is the most important part of what I'm trying to teach in this call. And little by little, your life will turn into what is most important to you. Your life right now is most likely reflecting what is most important to you. And that can be a tough mirror to have sometimes, because sometimes what's more important to us is proving we're not worthy of something. Sometimes what's more important to us is to be wrong about something so that you could punish yourself. So the more you focus on what's important on you, you cultivate little and small ceremonies. The little by little, your life will turn into what's important for you. More love, understanding, whatever it is that's important, intentionality, beautiful relationships. It's all about connection. So, oh, perfect timing. There was one more bit or a couple more bits, but I did say what I wanted to say. So I would love to open the space a little bit and then we can continue the discussion. So whether you want to write in the chat or unmute yourself, just knowing if you unmute yourself, your video will be on the recording. So if you want to take your video off and unmute yourself, just for consensual purposes. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. Is this landing? How can you start to incorporate this? How are you feeling in the body, in your body? Any questions about celebration? Just taking a moment to let things land.
I can say some stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like really connected and like synchronized with everything you're saying.
Mm.
It's like what Cecilia wrote about how she's heard it before, and now it's like hearing it again. I've been like thinking all these things, like I want to declutter my space, and I want to add more value to the things that I want to bring into my life, like the food I eat, and like what is something I want to do when I wake up in the morning. Which one thing I've noticed is like I've shifted to just being really grateful, like waking up and like knowing like I'm in my body and I have a good health and just a roof over my head. Those things.
Mm.
Just honoring that part of my life, and I feel like this is really like going to shift more into the things I'm working towards. So yeah, I feel really, really happy to hear all this. And now it's just how to like stick with it and like actually feel it in the body more. And yeah, taking the small steps like ceremony and celebrating the small things, even for me, is so. Thank you for all this information and wisdom and knowledge that you share. It's so inspiring.
Mm.
So thank
So
you.
good. Yeah, thanks for sharing, and it was so good to hear you and feel you. And that, this, like I said earlier, and you guys mentioned, it's not new knowledge, but my intention with my teachings and everything is I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm just sharing it in another language or another sense that can land for you in this exact moment in your life, and from direct experience, because I've experienced this in my life of the impact of what it's made for me, both ceremonies and celebrations, and then having the everyday life ceremonies. I remember at some point I had a heart on my credit card or my debit card. So it reminded me every time I bought something to love. Every time I bought something is to really like remember that love. Um, yeah, it was a heart. I was thinking, is it a heart or a smiley face? But it was a heart. So that was a practice that now more and more in my lifestyle, it's like I try to only pay my bills and pay for things when I'm in a good energy. Because like I talked about in the beginning, it's like there's a gratitude to have a roof over your head and to have electricity and to buy the foods and to buy the things. So even everyday life things like this are making a huge impact over time, compounding little by little. I've reacted very intuitive when sudden death have happened. Don't know what forces led me, but it's been special. I do Tibetan work of death, but very intuitive ceremonies in Norway in 2023. Yeah, I think ceremonies, this is also something I wanted to bring in, or I felt kind of before I opened the Q&A, is that sometimes ceremonies can be quite planned and other times very spontaneous and very intuitive, especially if you make ceremonies important in your life. You'll start to notice that they become more spontaneous, that you're just like, oh, today I want to set a space. Tomorrow I want to set a space, but it's like you didn't plan that for half a year, 2 weeks, like saying when I went to that waterfall, it must have been that day of that I thought of going. It wasn't like I planned it for a really long time, but because my energy and my body and my life is prone to feeling like, okay, this will be supportive for me because I make important, these spaces are important for me. Just like in breath, the more you train the breath consciously, the more it's going to support you subconsciously. Same in your life. If you make ceremony consciously a couple times, make it normal, suddenly ceremony is going to become subconscious. Something's going to happen and suddenly you're in ceremony. Suddenly it just has to happen right now. So thanks for bringing that in, Björg, that it's just like things can suddenly happen, and then there's this intuitive part of us. If it's a part of us, if we've nurtured that part of us, then it will naturally start to happen more and more and more in your life. Yeah, so it's also been a reminder not to be so hard on the self, and that these celebrations can change day to day. Yeah. Sometimes it's about sleeping longer, and sometimes it's about watching the sunset. I have to go now. Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for sharing. And it's so true. Like, it is a celebration in a busy lifestyle to sleep in. Like, some of you know, I take Wednesdays off mostly. And yeah, death of a loved one. Yeah, that's so sudden. That can be so sudden, so impactful. Um, yeah, so my days off, it's like I celebrate waking up late. I celebrate having coffee in bed. Like that is or it's more of a ceremonial thing. It's more of a, and then every Wednesday almost feels like a celebration of the life that I've created or something. So it's both in a really practical schedule way, and then also life changes. Do you feel like you're going through a new phase? Do you feel like the seasons are changing? Can you attune yourself to the natural rhythms that are happening around you within nature? Not necessarily within people, but within nature. And you will attune, you will go back, connect more to yourself. So, one more thing that I wanted to bring in, I touched base a little bit on it, and I touched base on the beginning, the importance of being alone. And this is kind of hard to teach in one way because none of my teaching is radical. I don't teach anything that's black and white, yes or no. It's very rare that you'll ever hear anything coming out of my mouth that is defined or like definite or like this is how it is. Because I'm a very emotional being, so I can rarely see anything from one point of view. The way that I work is I see every single side of situations and I need to flip every single stone. So nothing can ever be like 100% in my world. It's just how I work as a very emotional being. And maybe some of you can relate. Where some other humans I've experienced are a lot more like yes, no people. I'm not a yes, no person. I am a full encompassing emotional person when it comes to like seeing life and decisions. And so alone time, I think we can all understand the value of being alone, and then obviously the value of being with others. So there is a beautiful balance between creating ceremony with yourself and creating ceremony with others. And in the busy lifestyle, how much time do you actually have with you without distractions, without other people's opinions, without other people's ideas, without scrolling social media and looking at what everyone else is doing? How much time do you actually have alone with nature, spirit, God, breath? And how important that is. And again, this can be from the angle of being in a deep space with yourself, completely just you, needing time for yourself, communicating to the people around you, and prioritizing it, saying, like, every morning I'm going to have this time for myself, or every evening, or once a week, or whatever. And then also the spectrum of just having a day off, being able to go to the cafe that you want, and then go to the farmer's market and go to the park and drive in your car and listen to your music, or so it doesn't have to be like you have to be in a deep space with yourself, but can you go out in the world by yourself as well? Do a solo trip for the weekend, gain inspiration with just you. Because being in community is important. We grow with each other, we grow in relations. But I think there's always like a looping process that we always have to come back to ourselves. At least I feel it, and I know we're all a bit different in our personality types and our conditionings, and also I think our codings and genetics and things like this. But I need a lot of time for myself, and I don't really thrive off of permission from other people, or the more opinions I get from others, the more confused I am. I don't know if you can relate, but sometimes when you're connected to your soul, when you start to like, and I notice when I start to ask for advice outside of myself, I know I need some alone time. When I start to ask everyone, what do you think I should do? I don't know what I should do. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know. I know that I need time. That's a really clear signal that I need more time to myself, because I do know. Of course I know. Of course I know how to lead my life. Of course I know what my next step is. Of course I know what to do. But I need to cut out some noise to be able to hear that. And that's also an invitation with ceremony as well, to get alone time. If I have free space, I can set off time to myself, but I struggle more when I have to explain it to others. Yeah, always feel I have to explain and have to have a good reason to have some alone time. Like more like go for a run is fine, but not meditation. So the invitation here is to first notice any resistance that you have, like I was talking about earlier. Sometimes it's an internal thing that you don't feel like this is like it's bringing you to the next level, right? Like going for a run is like acceptable in this society. Like, I'm gonna go for a run, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna go for a walk, everyone's like, yeah, yeah. But if you're like, I'm gonna go meditate, not everyone can relate to that. Not everyone sees the value in that. So there's an extra layer of, I need to explain why this thing creates so much value for me. And then the question is, well, what part of me feels like I need to protect, or not protect, what is the word I'm trying to think of? Part of me that needs to explain, or I'm not finding the word. Having to explain, protect. I feel like the word is like on my, yeah. Defend. Yeah, defend. That's it. Thank you. Defend this part of me. So it can also be like an identity thing, excuse me, that you're going through, from perhaps somebody that maybe lived a life that made sense to others, where you're shifting into a life that maybe not everyone's going to get. And we ourselves need to normalize this lifestyle. This is something that I teach inside of my course, Healing the Heart. And it's a very beautiful process of what's important for you. So it's kind of like similar energies, but we just go deeper into it. What's important to you, and becoming the person who blank, becoming the person who does this, becoming the person that dances, becoming the person that meditates, becoming the person that wears colorful clothing, becoming the person that does this and this and this. And the more that you can really honor that personality, that identity, the less you're going to need to explain. So it's normal that you're going through a phase now where there's a bit of resistance, or a bit of like conflict, when you yourself are probably going through a bit of internal conflict as well in this shift. What are they going to think of me? What do I think of me? These type of things. So it sounds like a very natural process that you're going through. A practical thing I could say, so that was more the energetic part. Maybe it resonated, maybe it didn't. But that's usually what I see. But the practical part here is a communication thing. That's it. I'm in a big transition. Exactly. Yeah. It makes sense. It makes complete sense. And you're exactly where you're supposed to be. It's perfect. And I'm so happy that you're in this group as well. I'm so happy you're here with us. And most people come to breathwork and my work when they're going through a big transition. So it made sense. So it's really this invitation for you to get normalized. You've got to normalize meditation. Like, we got to normalize ceremony, normalize celebration, normalize these things more and more and more and more and more. And people around you will pick up on it. I promise you, but it will just take some time. You have to lead with the energy, and there will be a following. But the next part is the communication part. So first we want to normalize it. So we want to keep working on taking away the sticky energy behind it. Like, I'm going to meditate because I'm like have anxiety, and just tell this whole story. It's like, I want to meditate because it feels good. I want to meditate because it's good for me. I want to meditate because I'm actually more spiritual than I realized, and it's really helping me right now. So a practical communication could be, for example, you stated earlier that you have kids. So I understand that that's another layer of like you should be in service to your children, and there might be really smaller pockets for you. I really realize that I can really imagine. So a communication could be stating how you feel, saying, I feel like I would love some time for myself. And then saying, like, it feels really good when I can have 10 minutes, 20 minutes to just meditate and be with myself. I'm okay. So you're stating that everything is fine. Like, it's not a crisis, it's nothing wrong with you. It's just something that you enjoy. And that, ask for some sort of like teamwork if it's with your partner, or I'm not sure the dynamic, but um, asking for like, would it be like, or not, you don't want to ask for permission to meditate necessarily, but it's more this teamwork of, um, I would really love 20 minutes to meditate. Maybe you do this the day before because, planning and stuff with children. Um, and you just make it important, and you diffuse any stickiness, and you make it normal. And another thing is that if you start to feel good, there can be a guilt of feeling good, or like a guilt of feeling like, it's normal to relate to people when you're tired or not feeling good, or it's normal to relate with bad feeling emotions. And what I've experienced within relationships, the men, the masculine energy, they usually love when the woman, the feminine energy, does what they love. But it's a process. I remember in the beginning, some years ago, I've been running my business since 2017, like my second bit, like my real business. My first one wasn't really a thing, but since 2017, so it's almost been 6 years. And the first 3 years, I felt like I had to defend myself when I talked about my work and my relationship. I was like, I didn't really see it as a job or like a serious thing, even though my soul, I knew it was serious. Just like meditation is sacred, serious, something that is so important for you, something that you love, you cherish, you value. Same with my business. I valued it. I cared almost more about it than the relationship. It's like I cared so much. But I felt like I had to defend myself. I felt like if someone asked me about my business, especially my partner, I had to be like, yeah, but it's not a big deal. I can work later. I can work tomorrow, or yeah, it's okay. Like anything could come before my work, because I just didn't feel like this normalcy around what I do in the world. I felt kind of I felt like it wasn't good enough. I felt like it was kind of weird. I felt like it was kind of like woo woo, not not really like a real thing. And because I thought they thought that. So I wanted to kind of meet them in the conversation. And later I realized, looking back, how much that same partner would have loved if I just could shine my light. I think that's all he really wanted me to do, actually, was like really shine and be in my thing. And how much the masculine loves when the feminine is shining and in their purpose and loving their life and enjoying and honoring themselves and doing the freaking thing that you want to do, making your art, making things beautiful, singing, dancing, like moving, water, all these things. This is so familiar, yeah. So my next relationship, my next serious relationship, a couple years later, 3 years later, 2 years later, I am in a point now where I'm really honoring my work. And relationships do come over my work. So first is spirit and breath, then it's relationships, and then it's my creative work in the world. That's kind of how my value tree is. And but it's still there. It's still so important, and no partner can take that shine from me. And then I had this experience last year, which was after the last relationship, that wow, I'm inspiring to my partner, where before I thought I was annoying. I thought I was like this little fluffy annoying thing that had no value and immature and kind of just fluffing around. I didn't value myself. I felt like I had to defend myself. I didn't value my work. I didn't see it as important enough that I could do that in the presence of him. I could do it in the presence of myself. I knew it was valuable. I knew it was important. But as soon as he was around, I devalued everything. So this is an invitation to not be afraid to shine and not be afraid to really lean into the things that you like. And if someone makes fun of you for meditating, for example, if your partner's like, you're doing that meditative thing again, just be playful. So yeah, I am. And see you in 20 minutes. And then when you come out, be playful, but try not to take in that energy and let it bring you down. Because the more you be playful and the more you just honor yourself, no matter what, they're going to start to pick up on it. And masculine energy, they value safety a lot. So if you're trying a new thing in a relationship and you're the feminine pole and you're trying a new thing and you want their validation right away, you might not get it because they want to see results. They want to see results before they're on board with you. And this is not black and white, but it's just a dynamic that I've seen and I've experienced. So instead of trying to explain to them, defend, and show that, oh, this is important, just be it, embody it. Let them see what meditation does for you. Let them see it. And then after some time, you're going to have the biggest support team ever. And you're going to have a partner that's actually like, oh, did you meditate today? Do you want me to take care of the kids so you can meditate? I promise you, this is going to be the reality if you embody this energy. You're going to attract people that want to support what's best for you because you know what's best for you and you're doing it, and that's going to rub off. If you buy yourself flowers enough times, people around you are going to start buying you flowers. I promise. That's kind of a simple way of putting it, because if flowers are important to you and you enjoy it, you bring them home and you're like, ooh, flowers, I love that. It's going to take probably a little bit of time before your partner starts to realize she likes flowers and it's picking up and it's cheers her up every day. This is important to her. This is a value thing for her, but you have to do it for yourself first. And same with the little moments of coffee and mornings and Wednesdays. Like my partner, he knows that like Wednesdays are like sacred. So he'll like make sure I have a beautiful dinner every Wednesday, or like he'll just like, are you excited for Wednesday? Like he'll he'll kind of yeah, he's with it. But I started the Wednesday thing. I made it a whole thing. It only took him a couple weeks to get on board with that. And that's part of being, ceremonial in a sense as well. People will start to catch on. I hope that supported you. So is there anything else you guys want to check in with? Yeah, you're so welcome. So good. So good, so good. It's gonna charge. A couple more minutes if there's anything else. I'm here. Great. So I will say one more thing to round this off, and it's something that always comes to me for my own dialogue and then for my clients as well. And it's this energy of returning and just returning and just returning and returning. Because it's normal to fall out of practice. It's normal to fall out into subconscious doing things, right? Like days are just rolling by, same day, every single day. it's normal in this human experience to be like this, and most people actually live their life like this. If you're hard on yourself, you're going to slow down the whole process even more. So what I do whenever I fall out of ceremony in my life, I just bring myself back really lightly, really gently, and I just say, welcome, welcome back. I've missed you. We're here now. Chin up, heart open. Let's just make the next step forward. Instead of punishing yourself for being away, just welcome yourself back. Because your heart does not judge. Your heart has discernment of what is good for you and what's not good for you, but it doesn't judge you. It doesn't think that things are bad or good. It just thinks in the terms of, or yeah, I just contradicted myself there, but it's kind of this energy. How can I use different words? The heart and like the spirit energy, it doesn't judge good or bad, but it can discern what's for you or not for you. Trying to find better words, but I think you guys can feel the energy. So yeah, integrate the word ceremony. Yeah, finding what it is for you. Yeah, even what I already do naturally and what I'll bring more into my life. Ceremonial and celebrational ways. Yes. Yes. It can look so unique. It can look so creative and so different. So if you feel like you've kind of gone out a little bit, if you feel like, this past couple months has been a bit funky, just make a ceremony for yourself and be like, this is my moment of coming back. I'm gonna, from this point on, I'm going to honor more. This is my next phase. And that's why within this group, within Breathe Live, every month we make an intention. This is also a ceremonial way of living, because every month you have a word, you move into a next stage. We follow the moon cycle. That's super important to me, and not from necessarily like an astrological point of view, but from a nature point of view, that we actually know where the cycle is in this earth. And I also would love to bring in more seasonal things within Breathe Live, and it's nature is a really big part of what ceremony is to me, and I'm sure to all of you as well. So thank you for this call. My intention that it supported you, inspired you to make little shifts, and remember, little by little, your life will be what you make important. So the big questions here is, what is important? What are you dedicated to? And how is that reflecting? How are you manifesting that? How are you making moments for that, for yourself and together with others? So be a part of other people's celebrations and celebrate yourself. Create little ceremonial moments, big ceremonial moments. Thank you so much for being a part of today's call. And I'm just sending so much love to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and I'll see you soon. Bye.